of a full detail on this 2021 VW Atlas, and just kind of finishing up wiping the car down. I didn't go ahead and like fully clean all the wheels. I'm just kind of wiping, because I'm going to do any work on the wheels. I just want them to look good. So a little bit of detail spray, double soft towel, and just wiping them down to make them look a little bit better. But you can see on this cart today we have a few different things we're going to be using. So I kind of set it in the notification on Instagram, but this thing's going to need to be polished. So I have my whole polishing set up. I have some ceramic coating, but what I'm going to start with first is addressing all of the plastic trim. So this car has plastic. It's a little bit more than you would expect, but these B pillars down on the bottom section there, right on the top of the fenders here and around the mirror, as well as like the cowl. And if you look like on the cowl, you can see like kind of over here, it's a little bit chalky right now. So as I see that, and like even over here, you can see where I got a little bit of overspray on detail spray, but it's just looking a little bit more gray than I want it to look. And if I just went ahead and coated over it, it would make it look better, but I'd be coating over the top of oxidation, and I want to remove that first. And the thing about it is, we talk about this a lot of like cleaning and coating plastic, but it's like when along the process do you do it? So I always do that first before I get into the polishing, because if I have the towel and I'm touching the paint, anything like that, then it gives me a chance to correct that after I'm done doing that. I also have some tape, so once it's clean, then we can mask it off. You can also dress it with like VRT or graphene VRT after you're done cleaning it, which then when you start polishing, even if you get some of the compound or polish on it, it will wipe right off because you protected it with or dressed it with VRT or graphene VRT. But because in the long run I'm actually going to coat it, I don't want any artificial dressing on here like VRT or graphene VRT, because then the coating is not going on the actual plastic. So that's why I would tape it instead of dress it like that. So so that's what we're doing today. And then just remember, during this live, I kind of talked about this last week, but this is the time to ask questions. And I kind of said this last week, like there might be a lot of dead time because of like polishing. It just takes a little bit longer. So I'm not going to be bouncing around the car as much as I did last week when we washed it, clayed it, iron remover and all the stuff, clean the wheels. So if there's any time to ask questions, today would be like really like a great time to do it. And next week, because next week we'll probably be getting into the ceramic coating piece, which again, once you see it once, get an understanding of what I'm going to do the rest of the time. So come with questions today. I do know as well, just as an announcement, I don't know if it's live yet, but we will be doing a giveaway today. So we're going to be giving away one of our garage light setups, the hexagon lights that you see in a lot of garages that just make it look amazing. So I'm not sure if it's live yet, but once it goes live, jump over to Instagram, or once you're done here, jump over to Instagram, and I think all you have to do is make sure you're following us on Instagram, and then tag 3 of your friends, and then comment either how much you want the hex lights or how much you love them. So that's gonna be pretty cool. They retail for like $900, so it's a pretty significant giveaway when it comes to like what we do here. So I'm pretty excited for that. I don't have them in my garage yet. It's not quite set up the right way, but I installed them at someone who works here, Charlie. He runs customer service. I installed them at his house and it looks amazing. So I know in the future I'm going to be doing it at my house, but and if you're wondering, how do I even set these up? Our video for that here on YouTube is very in-depth as far as like how to install them. And the cool thing about our install was Charlie's ceiling in his garage was offset. There was one section that was like a couple feet higher than the other. So we actually had to do like a hybrid install of one. I'm pretty proud of that video because, well, first I installed them. So I actually did let's see, I did more home projects at Charlie's house than I have at my house. So whatever. My wife probably wouldn't be happy, but anyways.
A couple questions.
Yeah, question, shoot.
B. Robinson asks, what's the best time of year to do a clay bar session?
Oh, that's a good question. So B. Robinson says, what's the best time of year to do a clay bar section? You know, all year round is great. I would say that when it gets really hot out, so like today, let's see how hot it is. It's about 60 degrees today. This is like ideal temperature. The reason why is if it gets hot, like if it gets into the 90s or hundreds, the surface of your paint gets really hot. And then what happens is your clay, first off, your clay lube, like the detail spray, dries faster. So you end up having to use so it doesn't drag on the surface, but also your clay gets really soft. So you get a lot more clay transfer onto your paint while you're doing it in high temps. So 90 and 100, I'd probably avoid it. But also when you get into the really cold times, like 50 or below, the clay stays really, really hard. So the pores don't open as much. So when you're claying, it's not as effective. So I would say, you know, between like 60 and 80 would be like ideal. But aside from that, if you have a garage, you know, that the temperature is a little bit lower, even if it's 95 degrees outside, pull it inside and do it in there. And then just as a reminder, like about every 3 months, you want to do like a maintenance clay. I say the clay mitt is the best version of that. When you're getting into claying cars before polishing, like if they've been really neglected, the medium grade, which is our dark gray colored clay bar, does a lot more work, but it's more apt to marring the surface. So it's fine if you're going to be polishing because you want to remove as much bonding contamination. The gray one, I think, just does a little bit more work when it comes to removing severe bonding contamination versus like this car. It's a 2021. It was pretty well taken care of. So last week when I washed it, I used a clay mitt during the wash process. Well, actually, it was during the iron remover process to clay the car, and it's very, very smooth. I know there's not really any bonding contamination on here, so polishing is going to be a lot easier. But also, claying your car is just good to do every 3 months, even if you're not polishing, because you want to keep that stuff off of the car.
You want to do it real quick? Just can they hear you? Check. They were having Wi-Fi problems, but I turned off the Wi-Fi. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just make sure, put in the comments so you can hear me. I have a mic on underneath my shirt, so hopefully it's loud and clear. We tested it before, but if it's not, Kai can just unplug the thing and it will, we'll be able to hear it. But
I also got word the giveaway is live.
Talked about the giveaway. Yeah, so Kai just came out. The giveaway is live. So if you're tired of hearing me talk, jump over to Instagram and enter yourself to win a set of the Garage Hex lights. Again, I think to reiterate, I think those things are awesome. So, you know, I think there's some debate around, are they the right kind of lights for detailing? Maybe, maybe not, but the aesthetic of your home will look that much better. So obviously, like when you're polishing and stuff, having a good spotlight is ideal, and that's why we sell lighting for that. But
camera needs cleaned.
Oh, camera needs clean. Here we go. There we go.
Better?
Yeah. But yeah, is that better? But like, I don't know if Kai can show you on here, but when you look at the hood, there's a lot of damage in here, a lot of like deeper scratches, swirl marks, and that's what I'm going to be trying to remove with the polishing. But first thing, just to jump into it, is addressing the plastic. And so I think what I want to do actually is I'll pop the hood, and might give me a little bit easier access to the cowl here. And the cowl is where your windshield meets like your kind of like your firewall would be. And generally there's a lot of plastic in there. Like in here, I really want to address a lot of this with the tire and rubber cleaner. So I'll start with that. And I have one shop towel and I have one edgeless utility. They're very similar towels. It's just the shop towel is a little bit more rough, I would say. A lot cheaper of a towel. But for scrubbing, these two towels are ideal because if I use, first off, you want to keep your single soft for when you're removing like polish, compound, wax, stuff like that. Because they're they're soft microfiber plush towels. These are a little bit more scrubbing, and they're not going to leave lint. So, so what I like to do is, like, if it's not all the way near the paint, I can just spray it directly on here, or I can spray it directly onto the towel and then start scrubbing. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to remove as much oxidation as possible. And what will happen, you'll see, like, right when you're doing this, it will start to leave the finish more dark. But then when it dries, it will dry, you know, like even like a little bit more chalky because it just hasn't been treated all the way. So, and if these can, they can. So I'll set this here, I guess. No, right here. Flip this up. Yeah, more questions. More questions will be good today because, like I said, it's like a lot of work what I'm doing. So it'll be a lot of like downtime kind of. And aside from questions, how was everyone's weekend? I had a pretty good weekend. My son had his last basketball game. He did pretty good, and then my parents, for Christmas, my mom got us tickets to. We went and saw The Wizard of Oz, but the Colorado Symphony played all the music for it, which was like a really cool experience. My son was sick, so he couldn't go, so my wife stayed with him, but my daughter Ray and I went and got to spend some time with my parents. It was a good time. Okay, moving on to the side over here. So using my Viper chair, and I'm just gonna continue with.
The tire and rubber cleaner can't remove polish residue left by another detailer. What do you recommend using?
You know, tire and rubber cleaner I think is probably the best option. It might just take some extra scrubbing. So, you know, maybe citrus degreaser might work too, as well as all-purpose cleaner. But I think in my experience, tire and rubber cleaner just works the best. There's something about it that just, it really like deep cleans the plastic really, really well.
Doesn't have the darkness factor to it too.
Yeah, it kind of leaves it a little bit darker. But as far as like penetrating the plastic a little bit better, I think it works the best. But yeah, I think if you're struggling with it, maybe a all-purpose cleaner is a great option as well.
What special considerations /steps/ladders do you use for working on? I can't reach the back center of the hood, let alone the roof. Looking for a step stool solution for tight spaces.
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, actually, at Adams Polishes, we have a pretty good solution for that. It's called Adams Polishes Step Stool. But the thing that's unique about it is it's not as much of like a step up with it. It's more of it's like a platform. So the legs fold out, and I think it holds up to like 300 pounds, and you can just stand on it and work. So it makes, you know, accessibility a lot easier. I know it's something that I use it a lot. Just working on my cars at home. And I actually use it around the house a lot, which is kind of cool. But Adams Polishes Step Stool, that's probably your best option. And I would say, like, for a truck, you know, oftentimes when I'm working on trucks, even if it has like a tonneau cover, I make sure before a client leaves, you know, generally they leave their keys with me, but I make sure that I am able to unlock the tonneau cover. So I can actually like jump in the bed and walk all the way to the area that I need to reach. But oftentimes the step stool is more than enough to really get the reach that I need for that. So
How would you recommend applying VRT to all-terrain knobby tire faces? Foam applicator is a pain.
yeah, I love that question. So somebody asked, what's the recommendation for cleaning like off-road tires, like knobby tires with applying VRT to knobby tires or off-road style tires? My best recommendation is cutting it down with water. So take an empty bottle, and we actually sell them here. Take an empty bottle and put 50% water in it. Or even, you know, I like 50% because it still keeps the concentration a little bit higher for the VRT. But shake it up and 50% water, 50% VRT. Shake it up and then spray it. So once you can spray it, then you can spray it into the tread much easier. And you can still use a block applicator, but we also have this, I can't remember the name of it. It's like a multi-purpose premium detailing brush. And if you're on our website, probably if you search brush, you would find it, but it's like a palm brush. It's like a little bit bigger. Here, I'll show it to you really quick. I actually just used it on my tires. Kai watched me do it actually, and it worked really well. But it comes with a stand like this, and it's a big brush, really soft bristles, and you can just paint the diluted VRT into it, and I think it just it works really well, because once you're able to have bristles and you can paint it in, then you spray it on there and spray it into the tread only. Don't spray it onto the sidewall of the tire. And then once it's in there, then you can just take that brush and paint it to make it look even. So that's my best recommendation for that.
You think they're gonna anything in the works to add hard bristles to that brush?
You know, I don't think they're gonna add any hard bristles. Not in the foreseeable future. I know they're working on something in regards to making it like adaptable, but as of like today, you know, we don't, not yet anyways. Get all of this rubber. So this is plastic here, and this is rubber, and the thing about rubber is when it oxidizes, it will like really come off in the towel. So you can kind of see all that rubber oxidation coming off. So oftentimes just spray and keep going. It will, if it's really oxidized, it feels like rough, like there's a lot of drag when you're using this. And then it becomes smooth once the oxidation starts to get removed. And that's how you know you're good once you've cleaned it all the way. Okay.
Trim restore. Do we have a trim restore product, or what is recommended to darken and restore plastic?
Yeah.
And can you apply ceramic coating over the plastic once cleaned?
Even better question. I love it. So somebody asked, do we have a trim restore product, and do we ever? It's such a great product called, the very creative name, Black Trim Restore. And it's like a dye kind of. So I mean, not kind of, it absolutely is more of a dye kind of product. So it's gonna dye your black plastic back to black again. And yes, and it's highly recommended that you ceramic coat over it, because all that work you do to get it back to black, you want to protect it and keep it like that for as long as possible. and putting ceramic coating over it is ideal. So, excuse me. So yes, black trim restorer and then ceramic coating over the top. We have some good videos on that. I think even on the live here on YouTube, we did a video on it and it worked really well. So I would just recommend checking that out, because not only do we have the product, but we also have the videos to help you understand how to use it. So so yeah, black trim restorer.
Anton said you're so creative for naming the product.
Yeah, I know. We got to get creative when we name products, you know?
He said you specifically. Joe, Joe named the
Yeah.
product.
Well, I think the thing about naming products is like, if you, like, I think this happens a lot to us. Like, we named a product Slick and Slide, and it's like, okay, well, what the heck is that? You know, it's like, it's fun to get creative, but it's also like for clarity and just as far as like understanding what the product does, the more basic we do it, the better. And I think Adam established that like very early on with his brand of making sure it's easy to digest when it comes to naming products. So, all right, so I just did half of the car as far as it goes for cleaning the plastic. That's pretty straightforward. Just a cleaner and a scrubbing towel like the Edgeless Utility. And it's actually looking a lot better. Like at the cowl especially, if you were here in the beginning, you can really see a difference in the cowl down here. But now what I want to do is get into the polishing part of it. And I'm going to start, so instead of just grabbing my polishing stuff, putting compound on and start going and doing the whole car, I want to start with a test area. And actually, before I even get into that, what I do recommend is using some detailing tape like this. We sell this detailing tape here at Adams Polishes. You can see the logo on it. And it's red because why would you not do red? But, you know, I would recommend taping all this off. So when I do get into the polishing, I don't stain the plastic, and then I have to come back and re-clean it essentially. You might have to do it a little bit, but I'm trying to minimize it as much as I possibly can. So using the tape for this is just like, it's your best option. So I'll tape this just as much as I can, like down to here. But realistically, what I would do is I would go through the whole car and just tape off the areas like up here, again, down here, just to minimize. So this is one of those where like, it might seem like just a little bit extra work, but this is going to minimize a lot more work in the long run. So, that's part of why I'm taping this off. And the reason why we chose this tape as a company is because when you put it on, when you take it off, it doesn't leave any residue behind. Just like, I mean, even if you have like blue painter's tape, that works as well. You know, you just want like it doesn't leave adhesive behind after you're done using it type of tape. So, and we also have like a thicker option, which I wish I had right now. It's just a little bit more, it's like easier to work with. But we didn't have any on the product line today, so I'm stuck with a little bit thinner tape here, which is fine. I'm just doubling this up a little bit to, you know, if my polishing pad goes over it by a ½ inch, then I'm not going to get it onto the plastic there. So, all right, so with this hood, I have kind of these different sections like this, right? Like a bigger middle section, this little like pop out here, and then right here. So if I take the big polisher, you can kind of see, I'll just put it's not plugged in, but if I go here, I'm going to struggle to keep it flat. Here, I probably could, definitely over here, but to do my test area to start, I'm going to, Yeah, a little bit concave. So to do my test area to start, I'm going to start with the 12 millimeter mini, and I have a few different pads here. So let me just set this out for a second. So I have, I'll set these aside for now. But you have microfiber, blue foam, and white foam. And the microfiber has blue foam on it as well. And on the other side, it tells you what product you would use it with, you would pair it with. Okay, so compound, compound, polish, right? And that's just an easy reminder to know, especially like if you're just starting out. It makes it like really simple. And we have ours is a 2-step system, but on the first step, you have to make a decision. So if you look here, you have the polish that goes with the white pad, and then the compound that goes with these 2 pads. So what I have to determine on doing this polishing process is which pad do I start with? I know I'm going to start with compound, and then I know that I always finish it up with polish. Now, what I want to do is do a test spot, because I first off don't know how hard this paint is, and I also don't know how much damage. Like I can kind of assess it here, which is like decent amount of swirl marks, but once you cut through the swirl marks, what's underneath those swirl marks? So if I do like if I go really light with polish and I get a lot of the swirl marks out, but I can't get the deep scratches, then I need to move to compound. So what I always start with is the blue foam, not the microfiber. So I'll set these aside. And the reason why I start with blue foam is because it's kind of right down the middle. So if blue foam ends up doing really good job, then I know I can start there with my compounding step. But if it does too much work, like it leaves it marred a lot, then I know I can bump down to the polish step, and then maybe I just 1-step this whole thing with white foam and the white polish. But what I suspect, because I'm pretty sure like most European cars like this are pretty hard paint, I'll have to bump up to the microfiber. Now, if the paint is really, really hard, or if this was extremely damaged, we also have the option of a wool pad, okay? And the wool pad actually does a little more work than the microfiber pad. So I just have this kind of like in the chamber. I have it locked and loaded, ready to go any which way I need to go. But I always start with blue foam. Okay, and I just want to center this pad the best I can.
Bigger bottles?
You know, we do have a bigger bottle than this, only accessible to our Pro line. And our Pro line is a program we created for professional detailers to get more product for less money. So if you're a professional detailer and you want more compound, you have to sign up through our Pro line, which you need a registered tax ID number. And with that, then it gives you access to the Pro line. So yeah. Okay, so there's a lot of debate around, do you do dots? What I like to do, essentially a X or a plus sign. It's almost like a graffiti X. How's that? And what I like to do first is I'll put this on here, spread it out just a little bit, because if I turn it on right away, it's going to sling everywhere. And I have this all the way down to setting 2. And what I like to do is I put the X on there, but I'll run this on setting 2 for just a minute. Oh no, not a minute, but like 15 seconds. And I'll even keep it in one spot like this. And what this does is it sort of primes the pad a little bit. I'll move this around just a touch. And what I'm trying to do is, first off, spread the compound out onto the surface. But now when I lift this up, you can see the compound is covering all the pad. Okay, so now I know when I get into the actual polishing, which I'll bump this to setting 4, is that I have the compound incorporated with the pad and I'm ready to go. So I'll probably work from, I kind of stopped right here of spreading the polish out. all the way up to here. And I want to be able to give myself a line so I can see the damage I remove. But also if I need to bump up a step, I don't want to do the test spot continuously on the same area, because no matter what, you're always going to be doing work on it. So I left this area. So if this doesn't end up removing all the damage I want, then I'll switch to the microfiber pad. I'll do another test spot here. And then if that doesn't do as much as I want, then I'll switch to the wool pad and I'll do the wool pad here. So, so now put this up to setting 4. Now, if you're new to polishing or using a machine polisher, there's sort of like 4 or 5 P's, the letter P's, that I like to think about, okay? Number 1 is pressure, okay? Number 2 is plane. So like, am I keeping the pad flat? Number 4 is pace. So like, how fast am I moving? Number 4 is pattern. And then there's a 5th one I can never remember, but the pattern just means like I go in a crosshatch pattern. I don't do like these big circles. And pressure, to know how much pressure you put, I think you would hear a lot of people say, just do like 3 pounds of pressure. Okay, well, I don't have a scale, so I have no idea how much that is. The rule of thumb is kind of my thing, is that we have the A on top here. You take your thumb, and how hard you can press with your thumb is how hard you press. So you see a lot of pro polishers, they wrap their fingers around and they put their thumb here, and that's because they're using their thumb to do the pressure. Okay, so turn this on, setting 4. When you move about this fast, okay, you don't want to move too fast. If you move too fast, the pad and compound is not actually doing enough work. Oh, I remember the 5th one. The 5th one is passes. How many passes do you do? So I like to think, there's some people think about it different, but I like to think about it as side to side and up and down is 1 pass. So I like to do 2 passes on this. Okay, so that's a half of a pass. Now I'm starting into my full pass. And you want to overlap by like 10% essentially. Okay, so that was 1 pass right there. Now I'm starting my 2nd pass right now. Yeah. Okay, so 2 passes. Now I will say this, okay? It's very important to keep your pad flat. So let me run in here really quick and see if there's a pen inside here. This is something I like to do. If you have a Sharpie marker, it works a little bit better, but you can get away with just using a standard pen. Yeah, so here we go. Black pen. This is like, black pen is ideal, especially like a Sharpie. But what I like to do is put a mark onto my polishing pads, okay? Every single one of my pads at home and in my detailing arsenal has a mark on them. Now, hopefully Kyle will be able to show you this, but if I put this down at setting 1, if I turn this on and have no pressure on it, you can barely see that mark going by. But if I push too hard, it actually goes by really, really slow, okay? So if I'm pushing too hard, I'm not allowing the pad to rotate. If I'm on a side, it's not rotating as well. So like the pad is not flat. It doesn't rotate. And with this machine being a dual action polisher, I have both the oscillation, which is the offset, which is doing this motion. Because it oscillates, it throws it into a rotation. Kind of like a hula hoop. When you put when you're doing hula hoop, which I can't, but as it's going around your body, not only is it oscillating around your body, but it's also spinning naturally because of the oscillation. Okay, so having a mark on there. So if I run the speed a little bit higher and turn this on, you can see, like, I can't see that mark at all. But I know that if I go on to, like, if I tilt it to the left too much, the pad stops rotating. Okay, so keeping it flat like this, and even like if I put a little pressure on there, it still is gonna rotate, okay? So that's extremely important. So keeping the pad as flat as possible onto the surface, that's probably the number one most important thing when it comes to using our machines. And if you're using any sort of oscillating machine, that's what you wanna do. Keep the pad nice and flat on there. So I'm gonna wipe this off. And you know, it's interesting. It kind of removes some oxidation, but like some of the swirl marks are very, very much still present. And I don't know if Kai's gonna be able to see that.
I'm like blind at this point.
Yeah, but maybe if we put that over it, it's like a little bit easier to see. Wow, it is very bright.
I can't even see what I'm looking at. Let me see this. All right, we'll try.
We're trying to give you guys a little bit of idea of what we're looking at, but we own a white building for headquarters. We have very bright colored cement, and this is a white car, so it's just very. I know what
It's
Kai's talking
bright.
about.
I can kind of.
You can kind of see it. As long as you can see the sun, you'd be able to see it.
Yeah, that's right. You can see a couple swirls there still.
Yeah. Okay, so a few swirls left. So what that means to me is that the blue foam with the compound was not aggressive enough. Okay, so so now I know that I need to take my blue foam pad off, and I'm gonna switch to my microfiber pad. So so now same thing, compound. I'm gonna do the X. You can run over there if you need.
Yeah, hold on, guys.
Kai's car alarm's going off. There we go. On a car that no one's gonna steal, so. But I did the same thing, somewhat of an X on here. And again, so I'm gonna find my spot, which is right here. I'm going to spread this out a little bit, put it on setting 2, do the same exact process. So I'll let this run in one place for a second with no pressure, trying to keep the pad as flat as possible. And spread some of the compound out a little bit. Okay, you can see the compound gets incorporated to the whole, all the fibers on the pad. Now we bump it up to setting 4. And if, as you notice, I have moved on from my test spot here. I'm now on a new test spot because I want it to be apples to apples, okay? So same thing, setting 4. Gonna move nice and slow. Got any questions coming through?
It looks like we're a little bit delayed.
Oh, okay.
So, last one is next week's video needs to end with Joe hula hooping.
Oh, last video needs to end with me hula hooping. I don't think anybody wants to see that. I could be wrong, but
And then it's just a bunch of the pad with a good tip.
okay, good. I'm almost done with my second pass here.
What are you using it with one set, right?
No, this is compound, but I just,
We
I'm-
just used one set.
no, we just did compound with the blue foam. So let's remove this.
So yeah, this is compound. Someone said, is that one step?
No, this is not one step. This is compound with the pads that we use with compound. So, okay, so kind Kai's going to show you. You can try it here. So it's kind of interesting, like going from here, as you go down this way with the sun, you can see how much damage is still in here. As you keep going, you can see the oxidation that I removed, but there's even still some, it's better, but it's not perfect. And the goal here with doing the compounding step is to remove all of the severe damage. And even though it's going to be a little bit,
So there's the line, right? That's the line.
yeah, exactly.
So that's one side.
Yep.
Yep.
But down here, if you can find the sun down here,
Yep.
you can see there's just like, there's a few swirl marks that are like left over. So what the paint is telling me, which the paint's talking to me right now,
So this
is
one
that-
was less
less
aggressive.
aggressive. So blue foam, here, I'll just show you right here. So blue foam with compound was here, and then microfiber with compound was there. And when I say compound, I'm talking about this stuff that I'm using here. Okay. But even with doing microfiber, it's still just like a little bit of swirl marks left over. But what I'm not seeing is a ton of haze. Okay. So if I see a lot of haze, that means it's going to be harder to finish with the polishing step. So what I want to do is I don't want to just jump to super ultra aggressive. So one option, which I think is a really great option, is sticking to microfiber. Okay. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do compound again, but I'm going to boost it with a product we have called heavy cutting compound. Okay. So this is just a little bit more aggressive of an abrasive that can boost the compound to make it like just have it just like enough, a little bit more of a bite.
And when you say boost, you're saying like mixing them.
Yeah, I'm going to show you how to do that right now. But first, when you look at the microfiber pad, it's all matted down, right? The fibers aren't sticking up anymore, right? So what we have is something called a pad conditioning brush. It looks just like this. This is it, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand away from the car, and I'm going to turn my polisher on, and I'm going to hold this against the fibers. Just like that for maybe 10 seconds. And now look at the fibers. They're standing up. They are at attention. They're saluting the work we're doing, okay? Doing this consistently is going to keep your compound step effective, okay? So I'd say like after doing one pass or maybe two passes, go to your pad conditioning brush and brush the fibers out. And the reason why I went and I stood away from the car was because when I turned this on and brushed it, a lot of the dry compound came out of it. And what I don't want to do is do it over here and get a bunch of dry compound and dust all over my car. So turn away, do it. I always keep this in my pocket.
You want to tell, is it Dan?
Dan?
Does he
Yeah, probably.
drop the link for that?
Yeah, Dan, if you want to drop the link for this, then people can have access to it. Pad conditioning brush, okay? So like I said, so test spot here, test spot here. I'm not quite happy with it. So what I'm going to do is, because it's easier for Kai to see, I'll do another test spot up here. And so same thing, compound, I'm going to make the X again, just like that. Okay. But now I'm going to take my heavy cutting compound, and I'm just going to do a couple, I'll do drops in between the X here. So I don't need a lot, just enough to add a little bit more bite to my compounding process.
And this is what you're saying when you're saying boosting.
Yeah, and this exactly. This is what I'm saying when I say boost. I'm adding a little bit more aggressive of an abrasive to try to cut through that extra damage. And then I also know that like if I don't quite make it through with that, then instead of using compound and heavy cutting compound mixed, I will only use heavy cutting compound, or I can always bump up to another pad. But I'm just trying to go step by step of aggressiveness to make sure that I don't overdo it. So
we did here,
here.
here.
So now, same thing. I spread it out a little bit, put it on setting 2, and I want to spread this out just a touch, get the heavy cutting compound incorporate into the pad. And now go to setting 4. And do my 2 passes.
Joe,
Yeah.
you accidentally get compound or wax on your vinyl and it dries. What's the best way to get it off?
That's a good question. Somebody asked if you accidentally get compound
Slash wax.
slash wax on your vinyl. I'm assuming they're talking about like a matte vinyl or like a satin vinyl.
Yeah, and after it dries.
Yeah, and after it dries, what do? You do what I did on the plastic, which is use tire and rubber cleaner with a scrubbing towel, like an edgeless utility towel like this. You don't need to scrub hard, just like the weight of your hand. And I like to fold the edgeless utility towel once, twice, 3 times, and now I have this nice panel. So then I can spray the product onto the towel, and I can use my 2 fingers to use the weight of my hand and scrub it. But that's how you would get off the dry compound from a matte vinyl finish.
Drop the link, Dan.
Yeah, drop the link, Dan. That is so much closer. Oh my goodness. I'm almost happy with that.
Alright, let's see if I can see here again.
So here, I'll do this, okay? So this was step 1. The second one, test area. The third one up here, but the only thing I changed up here was I added heavy cutting compound. Okay, so let me see your keys. Guy
keep
keeps
hitting
setting his thing up. Just lock?
Yeah, anybody.
It's unlocked, by the way. Is how you stop it.
Alright,
So I'll say this, just by looking at it, the heavy cutting compound with compound, it is like 98% perfect. And oftentimes that's like enough for me. But because I have so much pressure on the live, I got to make sure and get this thing like perfect. So I'm just seeing like a few residual scratches, and maybe it's because, you know, here's the thing. This is a car I bought used. And so I don't know how they washed it. And from looking at this, I imagine that they took it through the drive-through car wash a lot, or the dealership washed it a lot with like their, you know, Scratch-O-Matic brushes. So I'm just kind of dealing with that right now. So that's why, like, doing the different test steps, the car and the paint is telling me what it needs. And what it's telling me is it needs just a little bit more aggressive of a process. And so I'm very close, but I think what the secret is going to be is taking the microfiber pad that I've been using. I'll put this back on here. I need to brush it out. The pad conditioning brush and heavy correcting compound.
And tire and rubber.
Just link all of them, man. Tire and rubber cleaner, Edgis utility towel, black trim restorer, detail spray,
could do
slick and
like a
slide,
group-
tire shine, graphic. I'm just kidding, but yeah,
Group link of what we.
yeah, group link. And what we'll do is every time we're done with the live, it gets posted to YouTube. I'll go back through and I'll add the links to like what I was talking about here. I think that will be helpful. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is, if you look at this pad, it's still very blue, white fibers. So like you can really see a comparison as to, it has a lot of compound in there. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take everyone's favorite product, the Pink Stuff detail spray. So instead of continuing to add compound, which is gonna gunk up my fibers, I can rehydrate the compound that's in here. So I'll spray this on here just to keep it nice and hydrated. And now instead of using just a few dots of heavy cutting compound, okay, I'm going to do the X of this, and I'm not going to use the standard compound at all. So I'll do the X of this. Wow, that's a lot. All right. And now I imagine this will be like my final step of my final test spot. But same thing, we spread this out. Setting 2. Let it just run for a second. Then bump it to setting 4. Same thing. Now I imagine the extra abrasive in the heavy cutting compound is going to cut through all the damage that I'm trying to remove.
Do the abrasives in the compound break down into smaller pieces?
Yeah, that's a good question. So somebody asked, does the abrasive in the compound break down into smaller pieces? The answer is yes. So it's called a diminishing abrasive. So it starts at a certain size, and as you heat it up and as it mashes all together, it breaks, small pieces of it start to break off. So the compound and the polish refine as you use it, and that's what allows you to machine polish your car, and it breaks down to perfect finish essentially. So yeah, that's a really great question. Okay, take my towel. Okay, that is for sure what I need to do. So when you look, it's kind of in here. You probably aren't going to see anything, Kai, but
Man, it's there. Yeah, that's right. See the sun?
yeah.
Can you
so it's-
explain, like, when you're looking, you're tracking the sun?
Yeah, exactly. So
Source of light.
yeah, like what Kai was saying is like, so ideally you don't want to be doing this outside. I think I'm okay today because it's only 60 degrees, so it's pretty mild temperatures. But when you go to check and see what you're looking at, like we keep talking about the sun, you want to find a light source, like a spotlight type of light source. And the sun is one of the best light sources as a spotlight. So if you're doing this process outside, what you want to, like the reason why we're moving around so much is you find the sun, and then if you move your body, the sun moves with you. And same with the camera. So as Kai is showing you this, as he's moving his whole body. So like even if you have to take a step to the left, that's how you can see it. And what it does is, so the sort of the science behind this is a scratch essentially is just a very miniature canyon in your paint. Okay, meaning like you have the top portion of the paint and then there's like a gash into it. And essentially so it's kind of like this, right? This would be like a profile of the scratch, right? And so what happens is the sunlight comes in, the spotlight part of it, it bounces around all inside of there, the light, and then it comes back out. And what your eyes are seeing is the light bouncing around inside of the scratch. Now, when you flatten that out, meaning you remove this top section of clear coat or oxidation, and it starts getting to the bottom of that canyon of the scratch, now the light hits it and it reflects off in one direction and in your eye, and that's why you can see a perfect reflection into the sun. So so that's why, like, you need to find a spotlight that is bouncing into the scratch and then bouncing out, so you can really see like what the heck is happening. Okay, so based on my 4 test spots here, the paint is telling me that it's harder paint. And the other thing is, on this last test spot, well, sorry, I'll keep going on that. But on the 4 test spots, the paint is telling me that it's harder paint. So I need a little bit more aggressive of a compound. So I don't need to use the regular compound at all. Okay, so I'll set this aside. I know that I need heavy correcting compound, so I'm going to keep this out here. And then what I'm going to do as well right now, just to finish my test spot, is I'm going to take the microfiber pad off. I'm going to put the white.
Spray an IPA after polishing before I apply a ceramic coating?
Yeah, so definitely you want IPA is a good choice, but we actually have a specific product called Surface Prep. It's like a light purple colored product, and it not only does it have IPA in it, but also has other surfactants that are designed to break down the oils and stuff that the compound have. So Surface Prep is by far like the best like prep spray before you get into the ceramic coating. And to be honest with you, like next week I'll probably be more into the ceramic coating piece of this car. I'll talk a lot more about that next week when we get into the ceramic coating piece. But yes. So same thing. Spread this out a little bit. So now I'm in the white foam pad and the white polish. Spread it out, put it on setting 2. Spread it out a little more, let it run in one spot for 10-15 seconds. Because like we talked about before, it will spread the polish out all over the pad. Then put this setting 4. I'm not changing my speed really at all. And guess what? My 5 Ps are the same. And if anything, what you can do is slow your pace down a little bit, because the polish is so much less aggressive than the compound or heavy correcting compound that it's not going to generate as much heat as you work with it. And if you run in a little, or if you run your hands and your arms in a little bit slower pace, it's going to allow the polish to break down that much more, generating an even more perfect finish. So I'm actually going like just a little bit slower, not all that much. But the one thing about machine polishing and paint correction is if you start changing too many variables, like with your body, then your results will be more inconsistent. So I'm trying to control my variables the best I can, meaning how fast I'm moving my hands and arms and how flat I'm keeping the polisher. I want everything to be exactly the same, because then it's going to give me the best results possible for the whole vehicle. And it just reduces like brain damage. And here's the thing, with polishing, it's a pretty long, like drawn out process. And so oftentimes what I will do is I'll throw on headphones. I'll play my favorite reggae mix, and that allows time to pass by a little bit easier, right? So like I can be thinking about it in like, okay, I'm gonna polish for 10 songs. And then when I'm done with 10 songs, I'll take a break. Then I come back. If I'm very fatigued, then I'll polish for 5 songs, take a break. But it kind of gives me a sense of like, you kind of take your mind off of the polishing thing. You allow your variables with your body to stay the same. Now you're just switching between compound, or in this case, heavy correcting compound, the microfiber pad, and then white foam with the white polish. And then by the time you've listened to 5 playlists, you've been around the whole car and you're done. So yeah, this right here is what I'm looking for. Now, I will say this, the paint has some pitting in it, meaning like if Kai goes over this and you can see it, it looks like these tiny little specks, almost like glitter a little bit on there. The pitting is something that I can't fix by doing machine polishing, okay? the pitting is caused by, they're kind of like micro rock chips essentially. Here. But they're almost like micro rock chips. But the fact that they're on here, I just can't worry about it. It's not something that I'm going to be able to fix. So really what I'm looking to correct is the swirl marks that are on the car. And once I get the swirl marks done, then I do the polish to add the glossiness to the car. Then we surface prep it using surface prep, and then we ceramic coat it. So so that, I hope that's like, the way I explained it is like easy enough to digest. I think polishing is something that can really be confusing. Like I think for a lot of people, it's like the biggest hurdle for them to go from someone who doesn't polish their car to someone who does. And realistically, like the way that our system is set up is meant to, again, reduce the variables that you have to do. So like with the rotary buffer, you have to really like understand the technique to do that, so you don't burn the paint or you don't cause halos and stuff like that. That takes years of experience. This polishing system takes zero experience. You literally can get the thing, polish your car, and be done with it. And the other thing I do want to say is polishing isn't something that you feel like you need to do the whole car in one sitting. So I meet a lot of people that get the or are scared to do the polishing, not because they're scared to actually use the machine and do the work, but they're like, I just don't have a full Saturday to go through this whole process. I don't have 8 hours to polish or 6 hours to polish. You know what? I don't either, unless I'm working on a client's car. And oftentimes I don't even have enough time to do that. So what I will do is split the car up into sections. So like on this car right now, I've done all these test spots, but what I want to do is finish half of this hood and maybe this fender here, and then ceramic coat it. And now I know I'm done with this section. Then when I come back the next day or the day after, then I'll do this door, this mirror, and this top section here, finish it, make it perfect, and then I will ceramic coat it. And oftentimes what it allows me to do is focus on smaller areas, which is less daunting. Okay, so maybe like within 3 weeks, I have then fully polished and ceramic coated the whole car. So that's just something it's like a high recommendation to everybody watching is, if you're not a professional, you don't have deadlines. So just work on the car little by little until by the time you make it all the way around the car, you're done. And maybe it takes 3 weeks, but as long as this is polished and then ceramic coated, you don't have to worry about this section anymore, right? You just keep going along, and then by the time you're done, your car is done. And now the ceramic coating is going to protect it. And now you just worry about maintaining the ceramic coating, you know? So,
do you always need a two-step polish before applying graphene ceramic coating, or could single stage suffice depending on the state of the panel?
do you always need a two-step polish when you're before applying a ceramic coating? The answer is, or I think when they say single stage, they mean like one-step polish. I think as far as like terminology goes, like single stage is referring to the kind of paint. Single stage paint means there's no clear coat. It's just paint on there. But anyways, yeah, sometimes a one-step polish is like enough, especially like if you get a new car, say you buy a brand new car. And here's the thing, brand new cars are not perfect. But like we did one in a polishing video, it had like 9 miles on it and it had swirl marks everywhere. And mainly it's because, you know, if it's a car you're buying in the showroom, they wipe those cars down, and they wipe them down with product and towels that aren't necessarily great for the paint. You know, they create damage. So sometimes in that case, you can get, like we have a product called one-step polish, and the one-step polish is enough to do a one-step around the whole car before you get into the ceramic coating. So what you need to do is just assess what you want. First off, you need to choose what you want your paint to look like. If you're okay with putting ceramic coating over swirl marks, please do it. It's just the best way to protect your car as far as, and also make cleaning your car easier, right? But if you, like what I'm doing is I want, like this isn't all the way perfect. It's really, really close, like 99%. I want my car to look like that. So I know based on my test spots that I just did here that I am going to have to do a 2-step system. So, here's the thing, like, I think if you look at this, maybe the second white foam pad with the white polish is unneeded, because with a car like this, you're not going to see a lot of the marring. On a black finish car, you're absolutely going to see marring almost 99% of the time. So like for me, if I was doing this, I could probably get away without doing the second step. But I think as a peace of mind thing and to enhance the gloss of the finish, I am going to do the second step. So it just kind of depends on, like, everyone's version of perfect is different. And that's even with your clients. That's even as you as a detailer. But I'll be honest, like as a professional detailer, I don't do it full time because I work here. But when I am doing it with somebody, before I let them leave, I do these test spots. And I get it. So if I started with this first test spot and the person was like, yeah, that's fine, then I know I'm just going to use compound only. If I get to the second step, or if the first test spot, they're like, no, that's not what I want. I want it to look more perfect. Okay, do the second test spot. And then they're like, I don't know, like it looks good, but hold on, let me do a third test spot. Now you do the third test spot and they're like, okay, that's perfect. I want that. Then you know, okay, the third one, I'm just gonna do compound boosted with heavy cutting compound, and I'm not even gonna do the second step. So that's kind of it might take a little bit longer as far as like your time with your client. But if you understand exactly what they need or what they want, then it gives you a better sense of what's the work that I need to do to this. So
You want to do some rapid fire questions?
let's do rapid fire questions. I'm gonna keep polishing while we do these rapid fire questions, because now I have the sickness, because I want this whole car to be perfect. So while I do this machine polishing, I'll do the rapid fire questions. How's that?
Sounds good. All right. What's the best way to see scratches and swirls on white cars?
The best way to see scratches and swirls on white cars is to have proper lighting. So either using the sun if you're doing it outside as a spotlight, or using something. We have a big catalog of, not big, but like we have a decent sized catalog for lighting. So we have everything from handheld, like bigger lights that you can really powerful lights that you can see scratches, to like ones that are a little bit smaller that are it's called the swirl finder light. And actually, to be honest, the swirl finder light is one that I really like, because the thing about the swirl finder light is the power button. If you press it and hold it down, it can switch between a spotlight on the top or a panel light on the side. So there's times where I use the spotlight and I'm like, I just can't, I'm not seeing it very well. And then you switch to the panel light and you're like, oh my gosh, I can see it perfect. It just gives you a couple options to be able to do that. We also have like a handheld color match light, which also works really well. Having a color match light essentially matches the color temperature to the area you're polishing in. So if you don't know a lot about color temperature, different light provides a different color. So like sunlight is more blue. It's on the Kelvin scale, it's at like 52 or 5400 Kelvin. When you get into like the lighting in your home, generally, if you're getting like the soft light color or like your kind of standard light bulb, it's more yellow. It's like lower on the scale. It's like 3200 to 3500 Kelvin. So wherever you're polishing, having a spotlight that matches the color of light of where you're at really helps. And the reason why like the color match light can match 5200 or 5400 Kelvin is because like if I had this inside and the garage door was open, I'd be having a lot of blue light come into my space. So then I would match it to that blue light color and it'd be easier to see. So a lot of like science that maybe I don't understand all that much, but you know, something that it's like a tool that just like helps you see scratches a little bit better. So, and I think like from a distance, like if Kai showed you the side of this car, you'd be like, this car is not scratched. It does not look that bad, you know? But in reality, when you have a spotlight like the sun, which is the mother of all spotlights, it doesn't lie. It shows you exactly what is on there. So so yeah, having more of a spotlight type of light source is really good. And you know, we sell lights called hexagon lights, hexagon garage lights. And by the way, we're giving some away. We just put that giveaway live on our Instagram. So if you want to win some garage hexagon lights, you have a chance to win those. You just have to go to our Instagram, make sure you're following us, tag 3 of your buddies or 3 of your friends, and then comment either how much you want them or how much you love the hex lights, and you're entered to win. I think they're a $900 value. So, but anyways, along the lines of those, the hex lights, because they're like long, thin lights, they're not spotlights. So sometimes even if you have those, it's still hard to see scratches. So even if you have hex lights, I recommend having a handheld spotlight that you can still see.
Would you do something different with polishing fiberglass?
Do something different for polishing fiberglass. You know, the thing about fiberglass is it's a very soft material. So what I would do with fiberglass is when I get into the polishing part of it, I would start with the least aggressive method possible. So I would start polishing fiberglass with the white foam pad and the white polish and see where that gets you, and then start bumping up in aggressiveness from there. But because it's so soft, it tends to correct like really easy. Polishing fiberglass, still run the machine, run it with the white foam pad and the white polish, and it should get you the results that you want.
How can you remove overspray on vinyl decals? The spray bar didn't work.
Oh, okay. How can you remove overspray on vinyl decals? That's a good question. So I would probably say the best way to do that, so the clay bar didn't work, which sometimes the clay doesn't work because you can't put the clay into the texture of the vinyl or the satin. One thing that could potentially work is, and you have to be really careful with this, but taking a towel, or we actually sell like these detailing swabs, a bunch of different sizes, spraying a little bit of product called Adams TAR or tar, which is tire and adhesive remover. Spray a little bit into that and just go over it. Sometimes that can work really well, but that would probably be like my only other suggestion. Tire and rubber cleaner you could try, but you know, tire and rubber cleaner is more meant to clean plastic. It doesn't really break down like paint, stuff like that, where I think tar does a better job of cutting through that and breaking it down a little bit better.
When you're doing 2-step compound and polish, is it necessary to buff away the compound before starting the polish stage, or can you save time and just polish everything?
That's a good question. So somebody said when you're doing a 2-step compound and polish, is it necessary to buff away with a towel the compound residue left behind, or can you just go straight to the polishing step? You know, I would say that there's like some debate around this. I think for me, like any time that you touch your car, there's a chance to scratch it. Not to say that our towels scratch cars, but the less times that you need to touch your car, the better. So I'm a big proponent of leaving the compound on the car and polishing directly over that. It also saves a lot of time. So, and I know Adam's the same way. That's something he taught me, is just leave the previous step of polishing your compound on there and then just move on to the next step. So that's a good question, but yeah, I think I've been doing that for years, and I'll even as I move on to the next question, I will show you. I have heavy correcting compound that I'm using right now. I'll switch and show you going to directly to polish, and that you don't. So the thing about it is, the reason why it works, the reason why I think it's fine to do is because you're breaking down your compound or your heavy correcting compound all the way down to where polish starts. So even though this is on here, when I switch to polish and I keep going, it's going to continue to break down the compound that's on here. So it breaks it all the way down to a perfect finish. So I'll just show you that. I'll take this off and I'll put this on, and I'll just do that while I move on to the next question. So you can see it's something that I do on a regular basis when I'm compounding or polishing.
Will the rubber mat and liner cleaner work good for your tires?
Will the rubber mat and liner cleaner work for your tires? Oh, will it? It's like one of the best products for it. I would say that like tire and rubber cleaner to clean your tires and your plastic fender wells is really, really good. And then using that with like wheel cleaner, especially if you have like a performance car, to melt the metallic brake dust. But tire and rubber cleaner, now I would say if your tires are extremely brown, like they've never been scrubbed or cleaned, tire and rubber cleaner might take you a couple times to scrub over it. You can switch to wheel and tire cleaner, and that really rips the brown and orange out of your tires. But if you have either billet aluminum wheels or maybe more delicate wheels, I don't recommend using that wheel and tire cleaner on those wheels. So you have to either be really careful or just stick to tire and rubber cleaner.
Would water spot remover in the future be upgraded to a more sprayable phase for ease of use?
Yeah. So somebody asked, will water spot remover be upgraded to more sprayable form in the future? The answer is no. And the reason why is because when we launched that product, it did come in a spray form. And the reason why we switched it is because with it being hydrofluoric acid, with hydrofluoric acid, anytime it sits on the surface and sits there, it continues to work no matter what, even if it dries out. So when we had it in spray form, what was happening is you would spray it onto the surface you're working on, or even into the applicator, and the overspray would go and land on either paint or glass, and then it would etch your glass because it's continuing to work all the time. So we switched it to a gel formula with a pull top. So now you don't get the overspray when you put it onto the applicator, and it's a little bit more safe for your finish. So, if you want to spray it, you can always cut it down with water, but I don't recommend it because it's a little bit of a finicky product, and when it comes to removing water spots. And I would say, like, to be honest with you, this is probably not the best answer from me because we sell it as a product, but I tend to use it as a last resort. And again, same reason why the hydrofluoric acid it continues to work even when you're not doing anything to it. And sometimes it can be finicky to remove. So you really need to use waterless wash, like something with a surfactant in it to like get it off the surface. So when it comes to removing water spots, like I tend to stick to, like if they're really on there or they're etched, I tend to do what I'm doing now, which is polishing. So I'll polish it and fix it.
That leads into this next question is
Yeah.
like, what polish do you recommend to remove water spots when water spot remover didn't work?
What polish? Okay, yeah. So this, like I said, this leads into the next question. What polish do you use to remove water spots when water spot remover didn't work? You do exactly what I did here, which is test spots, right? Because again, like the surface that water spots are on is unique. Like the paint is unique, the glass is unique. You won't know until you do an actual test spot. And so again, if it's on the paint, start with the blue foam and compound, see if that removes them. If it doesn't, then bump up to the microfiber pad, just like I did here. And if you weren't here for this whole process, like once we end this live here in a couple minutes, it posts to YouTube, so you can go back and watch it and see the process. I did 4 different test spots on this hood to understand what it needed. But when you're polishing water spots, essentially, like when you get to the portion of needing to polish water spots, the water spots have etched into your paint. So essentially what they are now are scratches in the shape of a water spot that's sitting there, okay? And the different stages of water spots is you spray hard water on your car, you didn't get it off in time, or maybe you went by a sprinkler or whatever. And what happens is the H2O, the water, evaporates into the air. That's what makes the clouds, right? Just the water cycle. But the minerals in the water stay on your paint. And if you catch them within like an hour or two, you can just wipe them off with detail spray or waterless wash, because it's just dried minerals on the surface. But if you let them sit there after about 4 or 5 days, even a week, they turn to scale. So we all know what scale is. You see it on your sink. Like there's like a lot of people have like the green, it's like limestone buildup, but a lot of that's also the minerals that are in your hard water. Once it turns to scale and like the minerals have bonded to each other, they bond to your paint. So they're really hard to get off. And 90% of the time when you're using water spot remover, that's what you're using it on, is the scale. And the scale is the hydrofluoric acid breaks down that scale that is in the form of water spots on your car, and it cuts through that and breaks it down, and that's how you get it off. But if you leave it on for an extended period of time, the UV rays from the sun react with the scale on the surface. It turns acidic, and now it starts eating away at your paint. And that's when we say, when it's etched, you have to polish it off, because now it's like etched down into your paint, like a scratch is into your paint. And then you have to polish it, meaning like you have a water spot that's in the shape like this, but actually it's like, it would be like a circle like this, but it's now like a canyon inside of your paint. You have to remove this top layer of oxidation and clear coat to get to the bottom of that, and then that's what makes it perfect. So so that's just kind of how all that stuff works. But again, like, even if it turns to scale, like it hasn't made it to the point of etching, I use polish to polish off the scale from my surface, because it's abrasive. It takes it right off. So either way, if I run into a thing with water spots that are not etched but scale on the surface, I still polish it, because I don't want to deal with the hassle of the hydrofluoric acid sitting on the surface for too long, and then it etches and I really screw up the paint. Then I have to polish it anyways. It's like, if I'm going to do it, no matter what, I might as well just do it once and then don't have to worry about it. So
how much time should it take you to compound and polish a whole car for a customer?
how long should it take to fully polish and compound a whole car for a customer?
I guess in one sitting, because we did say you don't have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you're doing it for a customer, like you're a professional detailer,
Of course, yeah.
I would kind of like, the beginning of that, my answer would be like, what experience level do you have? You know, if you've been polishing and ceramic coating or if you've been polishing cars for, a couple years, 5 years, I'd probably say like 6 hours, but that's also like very generic. Like, this car has a lot of paint. It's a big car. So this would probably take me more like 8 hours. If it's a truck, you're looking at like 8 hours, 8 to 10 hours maybe. But if you're looking at like a sedan, like a BMW M3, M4, then I'd say like 6 hours. If it's even smaller than that, like a really cool Honda Civic, like Aaron Krimble has, red, just tricked out Honda Civic, then that would probably take more like 4 hours maybe. So yeah, you just kind of have to get a sense of like, first off, like how much paint is on the car, and secondly, how big the car is. So, but I would say, like, as a professional detailer, I don't think like as a professional detailer, you're not as much judged on how fast it takes, how long it takes. You're more judged on what the finish looks like. So even if you have a small car and it takes you 10 hours, but you're working to get it perfect because that's what your client expects, then that's what you got to do. But here's the thing. Don't charge your professional detailing job as just a job. Like, just don't say, I'll polish your car for $800. Say, yeah, don't do a flat rate. Like, figure out how long you think it's going to take as an estimate, and say, I think this is going to take me about 10 hours, and I charge $150 an hour, so it's going to cost you $1,500 bucks. And if they say, well, I don't want it to be perfect, I just want like a quick one step to like make the gloss, you're like, okay, well, it'll take me more like 5 hours, so it's going to be more like whatever, right? So just manage it in that way. And I think as long as you're like honest with your customer, I think they're a little bit more receptive because, and I'll just say this as like an overarching statement when it comes to professional detailing. As a professional detailer, you're in the relationship business. You're not in the making cars look perfect business, you know? So if you can manage your relationship with your customers really, really well, and they trust you, they'll be fine to leave their car with you for 2 days, you know? So think about it in that sense. Be very grateful that they're bringing their car to you. You know, I've done this. I learned this from a professional detailer in Boulder. His name's Johnny. He always left a pack of gum with a personalized note on the center console, just saying like, "Thank you so much. I appreciate you as a customer." You know, whatever his note said, and then a pack of gum, and that was just like a little token of gratitude that not only is it, you know, a great relationship builder with your customer, but also a great reminder, like when they're at the store and they see the gum rack and they see that pack of gum that you, same brand that you put on their center console, they're going to be like, "Oh, I need to call Johnny because I need to get my car done again," you know? So just little things like that. I think get creative with how you treat your customers, and they're going to treat you good back, you know?
If I apply advanced graphic skin clear coating, can I apply wax over the top of it and then water stuff back and go on the wax and breaks down in a couple months?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I think so. So this question is kind of a cool question, but somebody said, if I apply a ceramic coating, can I apply a layer of wax on top? So if water spots get on the car, they're on the wax, which then the wax goes away and the water spots goes away with it, right? I would say, you know, you can. I don't think it necessarily like works like that. I think wax is a lot less resistant to water spots than a ceramic coating is. So, you know, the ceramic coating with like hard water and stuff, it's a lot less resistant to the hard, or it's a lot more, I guess the probability is higher that the water spots are not going to adhere to the ceramic coating as bad. And the ceramic coating is a harder surface than clear coat anyway, so it's like more resistant to that stuff. So you're probably better off having the ceramic coating on the car, but if it gives you like a peace of mind, based on your like, you know, just kind of like your hypothesis that the water spots go onto the wax and then they go away, then you should absolutely do that. But I think for me, I'm less of, I don't want to create more work for myself, which I think the argument would be like, you would be anyways, because in the water spots, you'd have to correct them off of the ceramic coating. But it seems a little bit redundant to me, but again, I can give you my suggestion, but that's not like the Bible that you shouldn't do that, you know? So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Well, I appreciate all those questions. Those are really great questions. I'm going to finish up just this last section with polishing, and then I got to leave because I have another project I'm working on. But next week, I'm going to keep working on this throughout the week and the weekend. And so then next week, hopefully, like what I want to do is like maybe on this half of the car, I will have it polished, and then we'll get into the ceramic coating piece. And so we'll get into ceramic coating, the paint, the plastic, the headlights, as well as the glass. So should be like, if you're really interested in the ceramic coating and you want more out of it, or you want to know some of the tips and tricks about it, next week will be a great week to be here on the live, because we're going to go a little bit more in depth with that. So thank you guys for watching. Remember, we have that giveaway on our Instagram. So we're giving away a set of the Hex lights for your garage. Go online, look at the different specs, look at how it could fit in your garage. And remember, like, you don't have to build the whole hex system. You could build half of it. You could literally build one hex and it will still work. So it's very, very suitable to everyone's garage. There's different shapes you can do, all this stuff. And then, yeah, just go out, Instagram, check out that giveaway. And then I'll see you guys next week. I really appreciate everyone hanging out this week and looking forward to ceramic coating. So see you next week.